When creating sequence diagrams, we want to start off having our extended use scenarios pulled up, and we're going to use those extended use scenarios to just copy information over. So here we're looking at the customer signs up for an account, and let's go ahead and open up my pre-made example here. We're going to talk through what's happening. So here we have our customer lined up at the left. The first interaction that we're going to see is going to come from that customer. So the customer is going to call the user interface display method. So here we have the user interface. That's the next item being called, and so it's displayed next. Every object is going to be displayed in the order in which it is called. So the first object that's called is user interface. The next object that's called is user list, and so that's the next one that's called. So let's see what I mean. So customer calls user interface. So then that's the first one listed. What did they call? They call display sign up form. And then the user interface returns that sign up form there. So we have that interaction laid out right there. The user then, or the customer, fills out this form, and then these interactions are going to take place. So the customer clicks create account. So the customer calls user interface display home page view. So here the customer is calling the user interface, and they are passing in that homepage view. Notice that we have our execution occurrence here. So the lifeline stops, and then we have the execution occurrence. And we now have another call. Notice these are going down. So this is not on the same line. It's not like this, right? You could have, it's not like this. I see a lot of this. It's not like this because they're not at the same time. So the lifeline indicates time. So display homepage view, and then we're going to have user interface call add user. So the user interface calls user list add user. So user interface calls user list add user, passing in that input. Then we have our execution occurrence with the user list. So the user list is then going to do what? The user list then calls customer constructor. It does that in its own class. So it says user list calls customer constructor. So here we're calling add user. So it's going to call the customer constructor and create itself a new customer. So what you're going to see here then is a creation of a new object. Notice this object is down here. The reason it's down here is because it is just barely being created. So these lines represent the life of our object. If I had this all the way up here, it would not accurately depict how long this object has been in existence. It just barely was created, right? This one object, this one customer object. So this is when you see it appear in the system. So our constructor creates a new object, and this should be up here. This is my mistake here. This should be up here. So then the customer object is going to create a new payment method object right here. How do I know? Because it's right here. Customer calls payment method constructor. So we are calling another constructor, pay method, and we're going to return payment method to customer. And we're making sure we have that execution occurrence there. We're going to return our customer object to our user list. And then we're going to return the success signal to our user interface and the homepage view to our customer. So you can see that our extended use scenarios tell us what to put into our sequence diagrams. Now it's just a matter of understanding how to arrange and use the diagram to depict what it is that's in the sequence diagram. So just a few points. Remember that all the objects are aligned at the top whenever they are in existence, and they are lined up in the order in which they appear in the extended use scenarios. Whenever we construct a new object, that is where the object will appear. It's still being called after user list here, right? So we still have it listed after user list, but it's down here. And same with pay method. So then we have our execution occurrences. So this is whenever the object is in use. or having communications with other objects. We then will have all these return arrows with return details, and we have method calls, messages from an actor to an object to another object. So we see all of our elements that were in our previous video being used here. One other thing I want you to notice here is that we have the name of the use scenario up here at the top in our frame. And I will go through and show you where all of these items are within this section once we work on our example. So let's go ahead and jump to the next video. Let's talk about the next sequence diagram.